Well, I know, but I think that's the original, probably. Keep joint numbers in mind. Can you imagine that? It's hanging right there on the doorknob. Well.
Parliamentarians here. Alright, it's 4:30. We're going to go ahead and call the Calloway County Public Library Board of Trustees special called meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. Unfortunately, we did have to cancel last week's meeting. We just thought it was best to err on the side of caution, and by the time I got home, work ended at 3:30 at Murray State. By the time I got home, things had already gotten pretty slick, so I do think we made the correct decision, and thanks for coming out tonight. The first order of business is on our agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting. Everybody has a copy of those in their packet. We'll first look at the minutes for the regular board meeting, which was held on October 10th. Excuse me. So if the trustees would look through those, let me know. Do you have any changes or additions that you would like to see made to those minutes, or corrections to be made as well?
I move to accept.
Second, so motion by Mr. Ramsey, seconded by Dr. Rose. We move to accept the October 10th minutes. Any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, let's go ahead and move to vote. All in favor of accepting these minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Ayes have it, the motion carries. Next, we have the minutes for the special called meeting, which was held on October 22nd. That was the meeting with the SWOT analysis, the strategic plan. Again, very small, brief minutes, just covering the basics of what they have to. If we could get a motion to accept those, if nobody sees a need for any changes.
So moved.
It's moved by Riley Ramsey, seconded by Mr. Walker, that we accept the minutes of the special called board meeting on October 22nd. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Ayes have it, the motion carries. Next item of business on the agenda is the financial report.
First report should be the balance sheet in your packet. And I'll just go over the balances as of the end of October. In our contingency fund, there was $90,982.19. In the building reserve fund, $3,024,698.03. The regular money market account, $869,456.18. In our checking account, $65,086.31, for total current assets of $4,082,169.08. Any questions on that? on to the profit and loss statement. We had a little bit of income coming in. You'll notice the rent, that was 2 months of rent that were deposited that much, because there was just from the time I went to the bank to the check payments delay there, so. Moving on down to expenses, under the continuing education conference, that was the fall conference that Manon and 2 other employees went to. And then just some regular expenditures under the materials for the books and DVDs and such that we purchase each month. And just more regular expenses for supplies and programming. And it seems like we've had a lot more maintenance and repairs this year than we've had in the past, so those numbers are gonna be a little higher. Just different lighting issues and plumbing issues and stuff.
I noticed the men's restroom has been repaired.
Apparently I paid that in November, so that'll be on next month, but yes, it's much better now. Are there any questions on the profit and loss? And then you have the previous year comparison, just so you can see where we were this time last year and this time this year, just for your personal review.
I'm curious, there's only a few numbers where we're,
Which report?
I'm looking at the profit and loss, down,
Previous years.
second column, yeah. For October 17th, we had a negative charge under tuition.
Sandy had signed up for a class and then decided she didn't have the time to take it,
Gotcha.
so there was a refund.
Okay. Any questions about the financials? These are something that we just go through now. We don't have to have a motion to accept these according to the parliamentarians, so if we don't have any questions, we'll move on to the next item. Everybody good? Okay. All right, so the next item of business is our regional librarians report.
Okay, not too many items on the activities this month. The Kentucky Public Library Association Conference is in March. That's an annual conference for only public librarians. It's from March the 27th through the 29th. Then KDLA is working on a webinar to highlight some of the best library programming in 2018. And we hope to have that available on our site December the 6th, but we'll archive it, so anyone who would like to see that, you can just go to our site. We have lots of archived webinars about all different kinds of topics. Public is welcome to look at those, as well, of course, as the trustees. And we are already beginning work on the summer programming, summer reading. Every year, this huge manual of graphics and ideas for programs and just all kinds of things is published for public libraries to use. Now it's available on a USB drive, which is a lot easier to send out than this huge piece of paper. So we'll be distributing those to the libraries in the next month or so. And that's my report.
next item of business is the director's report.
You have my numbers, have had my numbers in front of you, we're doing well, holding steady. I'd like to get to, our policies, we, kinda slacked off on that. I sent you copies of, KDLA's, the 10 essential board policies that they recommend. The, past board adopted those, you had a chance to look at those. My suggestion is that, we take the first 5, and look at those, and then go from there through the second half. The first 5 are, board reimbursement, conflict of interest, ethics, and fiscal responsibility. And then we go down from there. If you, or do you, I mean, it's just a matter of, updating, and they've been just adopting, or we can go ahead and adopt all 10 policies, or however you wanna go with it.
So we, at minimum, need to review these and then make any changes that we think are necessary, and then,
Yes, and they're all on the KDLA website.
So you wanna do the first 5 today?
That would be my recommendation.
Okay. Sounds good to me. I see now why I couldn't find my handout.
oh, sorry. These all need to go, that was one packet together, that's mine.
Let's say this is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
mine,
And,
that was my problem.
and she did put these together for me and did a really good job, and I'm sorry.
So these are not
Yeah.
what we need?
No, they all need to go down to Riley.
Yeah.
They're already divided out,
Sorry.
so we don't need to take one and pass it. I did that
Randy
incorrectly.
did a really
That
good
was-
job.
that was my
I think
fault
that's
for
my
taking
fault.
So, yeah, it's a set pack, there you go.
So that's a Joe,
Yep, that's Dr. Rose's.
that's yours.
Okay.
That's. We got ours there, so what's left is not. Alright, sorry about that. Okay, so the first one we wanna look at,
Would be the reimbursement. It's pretty straightforward.
Is it this the same thing that's in that big black book? It looks like it.
It is.
Do we need a motion to accept these, or
We
we
do.
move that we accept the reimbursement expense policy? That's,
If the policies are already accepted, adopted, you don't really need to adopt them again. I guess you could just confirm
That
they've been updated or reviewed.
Yes.
okay, so we don't need a motion, we just need to agree that we've looked over these and don't have any,
Updated or reviewed.
Yeah.
If we have any changes.
Yeah.
So, as reviewed, November the 20th.
Yes, be sure to put that on them when you finish this evening.
And the next one is conflict of interest.
This is the same thing as is in the black book also.
Yes.
These, all 10 of these
But-
should be the same.
The difference is on the conflict of interest, there's a signature on the
Right.
page. Are we expected to sign that, saying that we have read the conflict of interest?
We need that update on these,
So you need us to sign them.
yes. Thank you.
Any questions or any issues with conflict of interest? If not, we can, you guys will if you will pass your signature sheets down, please.
Ms. Audrey, there's another page in here also. Do you want us to sign both? It's a page 3.
No, just that one, Lee. It says the same thing.
Okay, but this one also includes ethics. Does the other one, the one we just gave you, include ethics?
Yes.
Okay. So we don't need to sign either one of those in the ethics policy.
It includes it. See?
Same too.
Okay, we wanna be completely safe, Susan said, so we need to.
Okay, alright. So, moving on, if we'll sign the ones that are in the ethics, we're looking at the ethics policy, so, and sign both of the ones that are in there. Okay.
Both of them.
The one that says Callaway County
Just-
Republican, yes.
Yeah, I think the idea is because they're in there, and we wanna make sure that we're above the line and complying with everything, so it's just simply one more signature, so
Not a problem.
that's the way I see it. Once you have those, we'll pass those down, we'll make sure that Renan has them.
You want the whole set for each one?
Yes, please. And then there's a main copy of all of these in your trustees handbook as well, so. There should be a whole section in there about, I think it's one of the last couple of tabs in there, I believe. The next one is the fiscal responsibility policy. These are the front pages for yours, if you want to keep those. She just needs a signature sheet.
fiscal responsibility pages.
You did, okay,
Yeah.
alright. That's good. Any questions or issues with the fiscal responsibility policy?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my paperwork to,
Oh,
I mean, I
That's
have
fine.
one, oh, I can hold, okay. I apologize.
oh, you're fine. Fiscal responsibility look okay?
Fine with me.
And then the last one that we'll look at today is the investment policy. So the section in here that says investment reporting says that the designated official shall prepare or submit to the library board a monthly report regarding the status of the investment. Is that covered in our financials? Any questions with the investment policy? So we'll go ahead and mark that one as reviewed as well. So that's our 5 for this month, and we'll take up the next 5 at the next meeting.
Thank you. We have been discussing, the past strategic plans, and so, I made copies of our past strategic plans and things that have already been done, just for your and if you have any questions, feel free to call Wynn and Sandy, myself, or Sierra, or email us, or come by.
So are there any of the things in here that, because I know that there were some that were in progress at the time and things like that, so we can get an update and move on if those have been completed. Were there any things in here that weren't addressed that we need to take up?
No, this time.
And I know that that document was sent out in advance of the meeting as well, so. Yeah, it's a bad copy. I saw it.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Alright, so, we'll go ahead and move to the next item of business, which is old business. We have two bylaw changes that are, at hand. The first one, involves the description of the parliamentarian. I gave everybody a copy of this at the last meeting, and then I know that Manon just passed out a copy of the bylaws, with this information included in it. And so basically it just added the passage at the bottom that the Callaway County Library Board of Trustees will use the latest edition of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, as its parliamentary authority. Rules contained in the latest edition of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, shall govern Callaway County Public Library Board meetings in all cases for which they're applicable and in which they are not inconsistent with the bylaws and any special rules of order that the board adopts. So this is our second viewing, so at this point we can go ahead and vote on this. If we can get a motion in a second to add this to our bylaws.
So moved.
Second.
So it's moved by Mr. Kennedy and seconded by Dr. Rose that we adopt the description as stated for the parliamentarian's job description. Is there any discussion regarding this? All right, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it, the amendment and the motion carries. The second bylaw change was proposed by Mr. Kennedy. He sent it out in email form to everyone. At the conclusion of the last meeting, I think the email that I've got is dated October 15th. And basically, I think the resolution to amend the CCPL bylaws as follows. That the meeting date be changed to the second Tuesday of each month, and that the commencement time be 5:30 p.m., effective December 11th, 2018. In addition, on any month that a holiday falls on Tuesday, the meeting should be conducted on the second Monday of the month affected. So we've had a chance to look over that. If we can get a motion and a second, then we can proceed to discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Kennedy and seconded by Mr. Walker. Is there any discussion for this amendment? Seeing none, let's go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Nay. So we have 3 ayes, 2 nays. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. You want to go down on record, Kennedy, Walker, and Rose voted yes, and Ramsey and Neal voted no. That concludes our old business. Let's move ahead to new business. The first item there is a discussion of the Regions Bank building, including engaging the RBS Design Group to update its 2013 analysis. So I will open the floor if we want to kind of start with some basic discussion. I don't know how you guys want to handle this. I know that there's a lot of information about this issue and a lot of things to be addressed, I think, regarding this, so.
Pursuant to previous discussion regarding the viability of the Regions Bank building for use as an alternative proposal for use by the CCPL, I hereby move that we contract with AAA Remediation Incorporated to conduct environmental studies to determine the presence of asbestos and/or mold in the bank building, and further that we contract with Bacon, Farmer, and Workman Engineering of Paducah and Murray to provide a structural engineering study of the Regions Bank building to determine its possible use as a library. Those proposals, both of those studies would cost less than $2,000 combined. A structural engineer, and I have right there the proposal for the asbestos and mold study.
I think that, we need a more in-depth study from the structural and architectural engineers. There, Audrey has, this one is
Copy, this one is RBS Design Group, which is.
I've seen the RBS Design Group, if anybody else needs it.
And then we have the one for JKS as well. RBS was about $12,000 is what they proposed, and the one from JKS was about $25,000 is what they proposed.
Wait a minute, what am I supposed to do with these? Pass them down or?
Just, they're there for you to look at for your information. Those are what those
they're
two
more
companies.
in-depth studies from those architectural and structural engineers.
That cover the list of items that are,
If we're gonna have them look at them, I think they need to be more in-depth.
I think we need a starting point. And for less than $2,000, we can get a synopsis of what is available in that bank building, and if it is tainted at all, or if it's structurally unsound. So we invest the $2,000, and then, if that study and due diligence that we exercised according to our fiscal responsibilities in there, if that pans out and they say, yes, it could be used as a library possibly, and no, there isn't anything that, with regards to mold or asbestos that is an inhibiting factor. So for less than $2,000, we can find out if we need to take the next step to the RBS Design Group. The RBS Design Group has already presented something, if I'm not mistaken, from 2013, that was regarding what the city wanted. And the city wanted a different thing than what we're wanting as a library. So from a structural engineering point of view, we just need to know if they're provided the detailed design of that building, you know, the blueprints, can they give us what the stack capacity is of that building? And they can. If Mr. Mark Frederick provides them the blueprints and everything, and I'm sure he will. Let me continue if you don't mind. And once we've done that, and if they certify to be structurally sound, and if this group that can come in and do an environmental impact study, if they say there is nothing with regards to asbestos or mold or any environmental factor that would mitigate against using that as a library, then maybe we can go on to the next step. Maybe we won't, but maybe it would be a good idea to do the $2,000 study before we invest in the high rollers over here that we're
Madam
passing
Chairman,
around.
Did you get a second on that motion?
there was a second on that motion,
Okay, I'm
yes,
sorry.
sir. That was from Mr. Walker. I didn't announce that though.
Okay.
We jumped right to discussion and that's a fault on my part. Thank you for bringing that up. So we do have
I repeat my second.
a big motion. But the motion is that we contract with AA Remediation and with Bacon Farmer and Workman to do the, environmental study
There it
and
is.
engineering study. Yeah, you gave me,
Oh,
I had it,
sorry.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Doug. So we have moved to the discussion part of that, and I had the second by Mr. Walker on that one as well. Sure.
Why don't we just, like you said, hold on. You had already discussed waiting until January, let's just,
That's what I'm trying to do.
right, and not move forward with looking at the building or doing anything until the first of the year. Just wait and see, and, you know, we need to have more discussion on what we need to do. And I think working with Kenny, and I spoke with him on Monday, and, he is in agreement with us sitting down and having talks.
Kenny who?
Judge
Kenny.
Hines,
Kenny Haynes?
yes.
Oh, right, kill, what's it? You know, we've done due diligence, and we're studying that plan in detail
And
to
I
determine
understand
whether
that.
or not we want to obligate the citizens of Callaway County to the money that it's gonna cost to implement that plan. However, in that due diligence, we've come up with something that we think might be, something that we need to look at. In fact, we even asked that everybody take a step back and have a look together and see if maybe there's not a way to put that plan in a different building that will cost less money. I don't think that, you know, you're talking about waiting until January 1st. I don't wanna spin my wheels until January 1st. We said in January we would try to make a decision.
Right, so let's
Well,
talk, let's
I'm
talk
not
like
gonna,
you
I'm not gonna
said.
wait and spin my wheels till
Why not,
January.
why not wait?
Well, why not get something that tells us whether we're spinning our wheels or
I
not?
mean, I don't understand that. You were saying, let's just walk.
I'll defer to Dr. Rose.
There's one thing that we're all overlooking in this whole discussion, and that is that we've had nothing but crap from the people that have attended these meetings that are saying that we're not doing anything. And by God, we need to be doing this. And this is one of the steps that you take before you even get to the decision-making process.
Well, why are we worried about that when it's about the library and what's best for the library? If that is what's best for the library, that we take a look, sit back and take a look, then we shouldn't be concerned with what they're saying. We should be concerned with what is best for the library. And if it is to sit down and discuss what we need to do next and come together, then that's what we need to do. We don't need to make a decision because we're mad about what somebody said
How many-
and taking crap.
How many thousands of dollars has been paid to 52, 53 group to come up with different plans?
9.
And now all we're asking to do is to put in $2,000.
Sorry, 11. I'm sorry, 11.
Dr. Rose.
Thank you. All right, now, this proposal here, you mentioned, $2,000.
Well, it's $650 for the environmental study. And then Foreman and Bacon, Ron Bacon said that it would probably be between $1,000 and $1,500 at most. If he can get the blueprints and determine the stack load and everything to determine whether it's structurally sound enough to support the library. So we're talking about less than $2,000 to have both studies done. That one is in writing,
Yeah, this is $650.
$650 for the environmental impact, or the environmental study. And the other one from Bacon, Farmer and Workman Engineering and Paducah and Murray, they said that they could do that for around $1,000 to $1,500. And that they may have worked with RBS Design Group in the 2013 study for the city, but that would have nothing to do with converting the bank for the use as a library. And I've also asked Mark Frederick to forward those floor plans, blueprints, and anything else he feels is pertinent to Ron Bacon. And the phone number, he's the principal owner, because apparently they may not have been privy to them or for their previous study.
Well,
So,
can we hold off until December and have them to come to the meeting and talk with us? Would that be possible?
why would they come to the meeting without a study? They're not gonna do the study unless we pay them. You're asking the tail to wag the dog. They'll come and do the
But
study
they
and
know
then
the
they'll come.
building, is that
and present.
correct, because they've been in there?
Well, folks, it seems to me that what we need now is information. We need information, we need valid information, and we need it as quickly as we can have it.
Well, because all we have right now is the 2013 study that was completed.
Right.
And yes,
Yes, that's
my
right.
understanding is that while that was not for a library building, to examine it from the point of view of would it hold the weight that would be necessary for a library, it was still for all the structural repairs and everything that would need to take place to convert that, to bring that building up to code
Right.
and to make it usable by the city. And that came in at a cost of what,
$4 million
Million.
for what the city wanted
Well,
to do.
You,
But they were gonna put security installations in there for police records and all of the stuff that you have redacted from that's redacted from that RBS study. I think you have it also. All of that stuff that was redacted had to do with electronics, had to do with police records.
but I don't remember on the price breakdown sheet seeing anything that dealt with expensive numbers in those categories.
That's why we need to get,
well,
I'm sorry.
I think definitely the RBS study needs to be updated. The question is, and we've got a price on that, of,
Yeah, RBS said 12,000, I think,
yeah,
roughly.
I was looking for it, yeah, $12,390. Now, what Mr. Kennedy, as I understand it, is suggesting is that these other studies be done or in the neighborhood of $2,000 as a preliminary step to having the RBS design group.
That's exactly what I'm saying, Dr. Rose. I'm saying that as an interim step, before we invest that kind of money, we get a preliminary study so we can make an informed decision as to whether we wanna invest that money like that.
Okay.
You see, and I'm not interested in spending $14,000 something without having an inkling. And by the way, if we were gonna have to invest that money, then I would want to go into discussions with Mr. Mark Frederick about, whoa, wait a minute. We need to have this study now, because these studies indicated this, and now we're gonna need to do this study. How much of that bill would you be willing to foot so that we're not on the hook for everything? But he and we both deserve the opportunity to have an informed, I'm not a structural engineer, and I wouldn't know asbestos if it came up and tapped me on the shoulder and flew out my nose. So my point is, let's get somebody that does this as a living to tell us that you need to go to the next step. Is it possible, like I said in the thing, is it possible that this building could be used? And then, if that's the case, I'm sure that Mr. Frederick would say, yes, if we need to go to a next step, I would be willing to, and if we could get a hold of RBS and say, wait a minute, can you do the same thing with the blueprints and everything else that they didn't necessarily have privy to last time, and look at the stack loads required by law, and see if that's available, if that building would be available for a library. For example, if you take this room, for an example, and you stack chairs all around the outer portion of this room, and there's nobody sitting there, they're just stored. There's less stress on this floor, for example, than everybody sitting in it right now in those chairs. Filling those chairs and sitting there, obviously because people weigh more, but I mean the distribution of the weight. If you use the outer walls of an interior room, you get a better stack capability for what I understand. And if we did that, then this area would be something where we can use for common area for people to sit at tables and stuff, and the books would be on those outer walls.
Well, let me ask a question. These two studies here, that would, cost around $2,000, how quickly can they be done? When could we have the report on the findings?
Well, with the holidays and everything, I would think that we would be able to have it hopefully by the December meeting.
Yeah, I would think.
I would think so. They're local people, they're in Paducah, and, the other outfit has, they're in Paducah also, so it's not a long drive or anything, but, we've got Thanksgiving now, and we need, if we're gonna do it, we need to get hopping on it, so we can have the results hopefully at the December meeting to give us an idea of, wait a minute, should we proceed with this? Or should we just accept that at face value? That's not what I signed on to do, is accept anything at face value. I want to study all of the possibilities.
Okay.
And by the way, I want to study those possibilities for the good of the library and the good of the taxpayers of Calloway County.
Mr. Ramsey, do you have any comments?
Probably this is directed to Director Menard. I'm just a question of safety or a question of, are we doing the right thing? We have an architect already. Are we gonna get in trouble with maybe trying to hire somebody else?
I didn't say hire somebody else. I'm not interested in hiring somebody else. I'm saying we might be able to put that plan, the 5253 design group has on that board, on that wall, in that building, it's a possibility, or that building.
I understand.
And we would let them modify their design so it would fit into that building.
I
To
understand.
what the
That wouldn't
director,
be now, that'd be later.
that's later on down the line if we ever get that far. But I'm just saying that part of, if we're gonna do due diligence, do due diligence. Let's examine what the possibilities are. And this is the first step in this. I'm not gonna spin my wheels determining if we can move into that bank building if we're not even, if it's gonna cost $14,000 right off the start. We don't even need that. If it comes back clear, then all we have to do is ask them to restudy this with the interest of the library in mind. And ask them, will that right there with some modifications fit in that library?
So the motion that we've got on the floor is to have environmental and structural studies done. Do we have any further discussion that we think needs to be clarified before we vote on this issue?
Let me ask if Mr. Kennedy would accept a friendly amendment setting the maximum cost at $2,500
For both studies together?
for both studies together.
In a heartbeat. I would, yes.
That ought to cover the cost that you're anticipating here with a little wiggle room.
Well, they told me $1,000 to $1,500, and the other one's in writing, $650.
Well, of course, if you have
That'd be,
$1,500 plus $650, you've got $2,150. So, if you will accept that, then, Dr. Parliamentarian, how do I do this?
You move that we accept the amendment and vote on that, then you vote on the motion as amended,
Okay, I move.
if it passes.
Okay, then I'll move that we accept the amendment.
second.
Alright, so it's been moved by Dr. Rose and seconded by Mr. Kennedy, that we amend Mr. Kennedy's original motion to add with a cost not to exceed $2,500. Any discussion? Let's go ahead and vote on the amendment first. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No.
Ayes have it with one no. The amendment carries. So now the motion as amended is to have environmental and structural studies conducted on the Regions Bank building with costs not to exceed $2,500. There's further details in here about contract with AAA remediation and Bacon Farmer and Workman Engineering. to provide these two designs. Any further discussion before we vote on this motion? Okay, let's call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No.
Alright, I vote no as well, but the three, Mr. Walker, Mr. Kennedy, and Dr. Rose, majority, so the motion carries. Yes, and I'll just pass you my copy, actually, of that. Okay. Do we have any other motions or issues that need to take place in terms of the Regions Bank building? I wouldn't think anymore until we do these first two steps. Alright, so the next item of business on here is a discussion of questions regarding the CCPL expansion that need answering. This is something that Dr. Rose brought up. There's a list of questions in everybody's packet that was with your agenda and your financials and all that information. These are questions that basically have to do with the plans that are posted on the wall. Dr. Rose, I'm gonna kind of turn this over to you because this was your information that you wanted to bring up and have discussed, so I'll let you sort of guide our direction for us.
Well, thank you.
This is another copy of that four-bound
Okay.
document that you have, if somebody else needs to see that.
Anybody? This is hard to believe, but this report, this afternoon is the first time that I knew that this report existed.
We cannot hear you back here.
Okay? Sorry. How about this?
Very good.
How about this? Okay. Don't say I'm yelling. Okay. But I've been thinking about all this, and these questions came to my mind, and some of them are answered in here. But I just felt that as we were examining all of these issues, that these questions needed to be answered, and I looked on the plan up there, those plans that were up on the wall, and it was not clear to me how the present facility fits into those plans. But I've learned then that no, this building will not be torn down. It will be added to. Now, what the comparative cost is, it remains to be seen.
That's actually in that document as well. It breaks down what the cost is for the renovation of the current building, plus
Yeah,
the cost of the addition.
Right, right. Yeah, but then, see, there are three options.
And it breaks it down for each of those.
Right, see, so we've got those three options, but we haven't decided on
What they voted on.
one.
Right, yeah, they voted to pick the second of the three options. Yeah.
The next question was, will it be necessary to close the present library temporarily and move it to another location?
Yes.
If so, where, for how long? Are we prepared for the library to be closed for a long time? At what cost? What do we do if we cannot make this work, if we cannot find a suitable place, or if it is cost prohibitive? Now, the plan does include that. It plans for the library to move to a temporary location and be there for 1 year, and it estimates $25,000 cost for moving and $48,000 for rent. That's the most disturbing part of all of this for me. I can't speak for anyone else, but you just stop and think about this now, and the time is going to come when these questions will have to be answered. The library is gonna be moved temporarily to another location. Where? And for how long? And then related questions are, is this temporary location going to be acceptable from an environmental standpoint, an ADA standpoint, and perhaps others, accessibility standpoint, parking standpoint? Now, we wouldn't expect it necessarily to be just absolutely wonderful, but how far below that do we go with it? And I was thinking too, now, if somebody had a piece of property that would be suitable for a library, and we wanted to lease it for a year, and by the way, I think that's too short a period of time when you get right down to it. We built a new home a few years ago, and it took 11 months to build a dwelling. Okay? Think about that. But anyway, so a year. Now, have you thought of this? Somebody, a party, owns a building that we hope might be big enough to hold the library temporarily. How willing is that person going to be to lease that facility to us when that person's objective is to sell the building and make a profit? And there's nothing wrong with that. But would you want your building tied up with a lease when somebody might come along and offer you a very handsome price for it, and you couldn't sell it because you had leased it to the library? And then you say to him or her, you say, well, now, they'll be out of here in 8 months, let's say. Well, they say, sorry, but we don't want to wait 8 months. And so he loses the sale. Now, these are real world things, folks, that can happen. So, other questions here. How will the facility be located on this lot?
That's in the.
Yeah, okay. Will we create an entrance or a driveway off Olive Street? We've got to think about that. What about the parking lot? Okay, that may be covered too. Now, another question, I may be stirring up a hornet's nest here, about the Pickens property.
I have something from, Mr. Lampkin, when I was on the Facility Needs Assessment Committee.
Yeah.
He shared a construction timeline. This is from Ricky Lampkin, dated March 3rd, 2014. And they had talked to, Dr. Pickens, the idea of filling all this in and leveling this lot, which is going to be extremely expensive. That was not part of this plan. Leaving the side lot as it was is the way this is structured to work. While it's not ideal, it's worked up until this point, is kind of the thought there. With this, it says that the prediction for the cost to fill and compact dirt to create a level frontage on Main Street would be some $200,000 to $300,000. It also said it's his recollection from prior board meetings that Dr. Pickens wanted approximately $250,000 to $300,000 for his land there as well. So I don't know if anyone has
Well, do you know?
spoken to him since then, engaged him about that, but that was in
Someone has.
2014.
Someone has, and he wanted monthly payments for an extended period of time in
In addition to the amount of money for sale?
Well,
That document exists.
as I asked, would it be worth discussing this with Dr. Pickens again? Does anybody, what do you think? Is this,
Well, I did send a quick email to Chris, Cotton Jim, who is the architect of 5253, asking about the parking and everything, and he said that if we were going to level that, it would require the building of a retaining wall that would be hundreds of feet long and just so, and potentially 5 feet high, which would be really, really expensive. If we didn't purchase the Pickens property and went ahead and made that decision to build that wall, it would really kind of cut us off from being able to use that land if we ended up being able to buy it later. So it's, the two things kind of work almost against each other.
Yeah, they're
Really
hand in hand.
there, yeah, you either have to get one or you have to get both or whatever. But
If
that's
you
gonna
have the
be
Pickens property,
another,
you're still gonna have to build a berm.
yeah. So if you're gonna level that,
Yeah,
and that's.
if you're gonna level this, it's a matter of where the berm's gonna be. It's either gonna be on this side of the Pickens property, or the Pickens property is gonna be taken down, and it's gonna be on the
Yeah,
other side.
But now, the other thing to keep in mind is that the plan, that they draw, all the versions of the plans that are up there do have front entrances and back entrances that are level and are accessible, to make up for the way the side parking slants and the issues with that. And I know that in that, feasibility study, there are also some other parking recommendations in using some of the other land, the Olive Street property and things like that. Those have been discussed too.
do you know actually what the size of the Pickens property is? You know, the little building, and then what?
Just looking at it, it looks like about a 3/4 acre slice, right there.
I would imagine it's just that green bit that's there, yeah.
It goes back along our line down in the valley there.
How far back does it go?
I don't know how far back, but, it's just gonna be going down more.
Yeah, all of that slants.
The utility portion that we would like is gonna be what we see there, and basically what our patrons are using already. You
That
know
parking
that.
lot,
You
yeah.
know that. I'd be happy to talk with Dr. Pickens about it. And I can talk to him because he knows I know he's negative on selling it to you and to us. And the reason for that was the previous president here, who insulted him. And I was a demo client of him. And that's when he told me about it.
Well,
So here's the question though, none of the plans up here use that property or take that property into consideration. All of the plans, the 3 suggestions, operate without us having that property. So what would we gain from pursuing that property? What use would we put it to, I guess, is my question.
Pickens?
Yeah. I mean,
Basically, there's some costs that would probably be eliminated, offset costs of the building. Because of the way they're building around this existing structure and tearing part of it down. And that's costly.
I just don't see a retaining wall.
I don't either.
Those things are, not only expensive to build, but they're expensive to maintain. And the ones I've seen around seem like they always need, or frequently need to be repaired.
And
So I'd have to think about your question to answer it, but I would just thinking off the top of my head, it seems to me that it would open up other options.
Dr. Rose?
Yeah,
I would be happy to sit down and go through this with you. This, and your questions and this,
and what is this?
the feasibility study.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's fine, I'll be happy to meet with you. I just need some answers here, because we're gonna encounter reality here one day.
Yes,
Right,
yes, we are.
and the previous board hadn't gotten to these points yet because we hadn't moved. Nobody had made any concrete decisions to answer these things because we hadn't gotten to that point in the process. We decided this is the plan and what we want to move forward, and then that plan in regards to these things would have engendered our next actions, I guess, and we just.
Well, all right, I'll be happy to meet with the director on these. I guess we've taken up enough time on this, but I will say publicly, I think one of the Regions Bank idea has its pros and has its cons, and this proposal up there on the wall has its pros and it has its cons. And maybe there's another proposal that will come. Maybe these studies will indicate that the Regions Bank is not a viable option. Maybe they will indicate that it is a viable option, but I'll say this in its favor. And one thing that I find very persuasive is that if we bought that property down there and made a library out of it, we can have it fixed to move in. And this library here could function as usual for as long as necessary. And it would not be disrupted. We wouldn't have to deal with a lease. Another point I meant to mention a minute ago is, in this temporary location, if upgrades have to be made to bring it up to standard for use, even temporary use as a public library, who is going to pay for those upgrades? Will we expect the owner, the lessee of the building, to pay for them, or will the library pay for them? And then after we move the library out, what will become of those upgrades? Will they be just left there, or will they be removed? In other words, who will own the upgrades? And that's another point. But to get back to my original point was that if we did that, we could just move in and maybe be closed for a week while we do the move and be done with it. I think that's a strong advantage for that. But there may be other things that work against that. And everybody needs to know that all we're saying here is that I had an exchange with my young Skywalker Franklin here by email about that article that was in the paper. And he said, we three support moving the library to the Regions Bank building. And I pointed out to him, and he corrected it in the next day's issue, that we support considering that possibility. And please understand that. And we're not trying to stifle the expansion of the library. We have never tried to. That has never been on our agenda. I have said multiple times that what we are trying to do is to find the best way to do that and at the same time be sensitive to the tax burdens of Callaway County taxpayers. And I think it's perfectly appropriate that we keep that in mind. It's not sinful to be considerate of the taxpayers who pay the bills. No, this is a democracy. Okay? So let's just keep all that in mind. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Yes, Mr. Ray.
I'll try to make this real quick. Like Dr. Rose, I was concerned about moving the library. And 2 years ago, when we were discussing this, I actually went up to the architect after we closed and discussed this. And although it would be an inconvenience to our patrons and an inconvenience to our staff, they could work around that and we could keep it here and not move. Because I was concerned about the cost, I was also concerned about the $500,000 in new furniture. All of that is flexible, and that would bring down the cost for this library at its current location. But I
In the
concur.
same place you found the $500,000 for new furniture, there's also budget lines for the cost of renting a new library.
Yes,
And if memory serves me correctly, it was about $48,000 a year.
yes,
It
And
was.
then there's a cost for moving the library,
yes.
and that astounded me because I think it was $100,000?
No,
No,
it's
it's like
98,000?
25.
25.
So,
25, yeah.
and that's why I brought this up to the architect. I was concerned as well, and there are workarounds so that that kind of money would not have to be spent, and that would reduce the cost. But I just wanted to let you know.
And there are other options that haven't been, I know that previous boards were looking at the idea of the capital campaign as well. That was put on hold and not taken back up again. There are building grants and other things that are available as well, so those are also options to help absorb some of the costs. Whatever path we take, those are still options that are available to us. So we're gonna go ahead, we've got one last item of business. We have a trustees calendar, and officer elections come up every November. And I know that we just elected officers in June because we brought new members onto the board and needed to bring everything up to speed. So I'm gonna basically put this out here and say that we can choose to have new officer elections. We can choose to keep the same officers and not do elections if that's what we want to. But because it was on the monthly calendar, I wanted to make sure that it was on the agenda, so.
I'd like to make a motion to keep the officers as they are.
Is there a second? Okay, so motion dies for lack of a second.
No.
You're gonna second it, Mr. Walker? Okay, so motion by Ron Ramsey, seconded by Mr. Walker, that we keep the current slate of officers as they are, and that would be for the upcoming year through till November 2019. Is there any discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No.
Okay, we have 4 ayes and 1 no. So the motion carries. No was Mr. Kennedy. All right, that concludes our new business. We're moving to public comment. I have 5 individuals signed up for public comment. Each individual will have 2 minutes to speak. We ask that you be respectful of that time. And just keep in mind also that public comment is not a time for personal insults, personal attacks directed at board members, just as our comment time is not a time for the opposite, so we just like for this to stay focused on library board business, if I can ask that of everyone, please. So our first speaker is Nancy Muir. You have 2 minutes.
Can I come up here?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you.
I think they can all hear me. If they can't, they should be able to. When I filed my open meetings violation with the board, as well as when I filed my open records request, I want you to know I was not harassing you, but I wanted to hold you accountable to the taxpayers, the patrons, and supporters of the library. And I don't appreciate being accused of harassment or defamation. This is the first regular, albeit it's a special call meeting, that I've been able to attend and make a public comment in over 2 years. Changing subject. I understand there's a lot of people in this community that were not happy about the process with the way that these board members were appointed. I wasn't necessarily pleased either, but even if we don't like it or approve of it, there was nothing illegal about the way they were appointed. So I ask that we move forward on that issue. I was disappointed that the special call board meeting on June 20th, when you all voted to rescind the previous board's decision to go forward with library expansion. I understand that some of you felt you needed to get up to speed on the project and you felt like this was the best decision. However, at that same meeting, according to the minutes, you agreed to wait until January to revisit the expansion / renovation of the library. This is just November. I was also disappointed that some of you acted without full board approval or even full board notification and looking at the possibility of considering the former Regents Bank building for expansion. And until today, there was no previous discussion about looking at that building at a regular called meeting. So, I know that the trustees that did that were acting as individuals, but the press release was titled, "Library Board Members Providing Tours." To be an effective board, you all need to work together as a cohesive group, but you also need to look to the community. And do you need, and the question I think that you need to ask them is, do we want to move this library downtown?
Our next person will be Mark Frederick. Mr. Frederick, you have 2 minutes.
I just want to introduce myself. I'm Mark Frederick, and my wife Valerie is here with me, and we can shed a little bit of light as far as the structural integrity of the building. Valerie, if you want to.
Oh, these are some great plans. We had Charlie Skaggs, who's an engineer that had looked at the building first when we purchased it. So we reviewed hundreds of pages of blueprints and got in some neat archives, very interesting things. So we was able to have Paducah Blueprint save them. They did some great work. So now we have, I'm going to feel like it's on the floor. We found all the S plans, which are the structural plans for the building. And so Matrix Engineering is across from, do you want me to make any comment on that? He's a structural engineer, and so he's been analyzing the structure of the building because the code calls for 150 pounds per square foot for stacks, which are the library, which is considered a heavier load than it was just a building. A lot of interesting things in the construction of a building. If you know what moment connections are, so they're very heavy-duty connections where some of the beams or even structural steel are 24 inches beams, and so moment connections are welded and bolted, and so the construction where the stacks are currently have metal decking and then 4.5 inches of concrete and then metal mesh in the concrete, And so on his preliminary analysis, because we wanted to know.
Tom, I'm gonna interrupt you for just a second. So what we have a situation here where Mr. Frederick signed up and then his wife Valerie signed up as well. So if no one has any objection, I'm going to extend this by another 2 minutes because they would each get 2 minutes. Is everyone okay with that? Okay.
We can
Sure.
hear you.
Sure. If you want to take that, just slide it right out of the stand, stage back.
We wanted to know what we were representing because structurally it worked for our First Kentucky Realty office. So, the engineer that looked at it for us, he